Welcome to YouTube channel, Book Review. In this review, we will make a brief retelling of the novel by author Jerome D Salinger, The Catcher in the Rye. Before you start, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you don't miss more interesting reviews. So, let's begin. 17-year-old Holden Caulfield, who is in a sanatorium, recalls that crazy story that happened last Christmas, after which he almost gave up, was ill for a long time. And now he is undergoing treatment and soon hopes to return home. His memories begin from the day he left Pansy, a boarding school in Agestown, Pennsylvania. Actually, he did not leave of his own free will. He was expelled for academic failure. Out of 9 subjects in that quarter, he failed 5. The situation is complicated by the fact that Pansy is not the first school that the young hero leaves. Before that, he had already abandoned Elkton Hill, because, in his opinion, there was one continuous linden. However, the feeling that there is a linden around him, falsehood, pretense and window dressing, does not let Caulfield go throughout the whole novel. Both the adults and the peers with whom he meets irritate him, but he is also unbearable to remain alone. The last day of school is rife with conflict. He returns to Pansy from New York, where he traveled as the captain of the fencing team to a match that was his fault. He left his sports equipment in the subway car. Roommate Stradlaughter asks him to write an essay for him, to describe a house or a room, but Caulfield, who likes to do things his own way, tells the story of his late brother Allie's baseball glove, who wrote poetry on it and read them during matches. Stradlaughter, after reading the text, is offended by the author who deviated from the topic, stating that he planted a pig on him, but Caulfield, upset that Stradlaughter went on a date with a girl that he himself liked, does not remain in debt. The case ends in a brawl and Caulfield's broken nose. Once in New York, he realizes that he cannot come home and inform his parents that he has been expelled. He gets into a taxi and goes to the hotel. On the way, he asks his favorite question that haunts him. Where do the ducks go in Central Park when the pond freezes over? The taxi driver, of course, is surprised by the question and wonders if the passenger is laughing at him. But he does not think to mock. However, the question about ducks is rather a manifestation of Holden Caulfield's confusion in front of the complexity of the world around him, rather than an interest in zoology. This world both oppresses him and attracts him. It is hard for him with people, without them it is unbearable. He tries to have fun in a nightclub at the hotel. But nothing good comes of it, and the waiter refuses to serve him alcohol as a minor. He goes to a nightclub in Greenwich Village, where his older brother D.B., a talented writer who was tempted by the big fees of a screenwriter in Hollywood, liked to visit. On the way, he asks another taxi driver a question about ducks. Again without getting an intelligible answer. In a bar, he meets an acquaintance D.B. with some sailor. This girl arouses such dislike in him that he quickly leaves the bar and goes on foot to the hotel. The hotel elevator operator asks if he wants a girl, $5 for the time, $15 for the night. Holden agrees, for a while, but when the girl appears in his room, he does not find the strength to part with his innocence. He wants to chat with her, but she came to work. And since the client is not ready to comply, she demands $10 from him. He recalls that the contract was about the 5. She leaves and soon returns with an elevator operator. Another skirmish ends with another defeat the next morning. He arranges a meeting with Sally Hayes, leaves the inhospitable hotel, checks his suitcases in a left luggage office and begins the life of a homeless man. Wearing a back-to-front red hunting cap bought in New York on the ill-fated day when he forgot his fencing equipment on the subway, Holden Caulfield saunters through the cold streets of the big city. Going to the theater with Sally does not bring him joy. The play seems stupid. The audience, admiring the famous actor's lant, is a nightmare. The companion also annoys him more and more. Soon, as expected, there is a quarrel. After the performance, Holden and Sally go skating, and then, in a bar, the hero gives vent to the feelings that overwhelmed his tormented soul. Explaining his dislike for everything that surrounds him. "I hate. Lord, how much I hate all this. And not only school. I hate everything. I hate taxis. Buses where the conductor yells at you to get out through the back. I hate getting to know the wrecks who call the lants angels. I hate riding elevators when you just want to go outside. I hate trying on suits at Brooks." He is rather annoyed that Sally does not share his negative attitude towards what he dislikes so much, and most importantly, towards school. When he offers her to take a car and leave for 2 weeks to drive to new places, and she refuses. Judiciously reminding that we are, in essence, still children, the irreparable happens. Holden utters insulting words and Sally leaves in tears. New meeting. New disappointments. Carl Lewis, a student from Princeton, is too focused on his person to show sympathy for Holden, and he, left alone, gets drunk, calls Sally, asks her forgiveness, and then wanders through cold New York and in Central Park, next to the duck pond, drops a record bought as a gift for Phoebe's little sister. When he gets home, and to his relief to find that his parents are visiting, he only hands Phoebe the pieces. But she is not angry. In general, despite her small years. She perfectly understands the state of her brother and guesses why he returned home ahead of schedule. It is in a conversation with Phoebe that Holden expresses his dream. "I imagine how little children play in the evening in a huge field of rye. Thousands of kids, and not a soul around, not a single adult except for me. And my job is to catch the kids so that they do not fall into the abyss." However, Holden is not ready to meet his parents, and, having borrowed money from his sister that she set aside for Christmas gifts, he goes to his former teacher, Mr. Antolini. Despite the late hour, he accepts him, arranges for the night. Like a true mentor, he tries to give him a number of useful tips on how to build relationships with the outside world, but Holden is too tired to accept reasonable sayings. Then, suddenly, he wakes up in the middle of the night to find a teacher by his bed, who strokes his forehead. Suspecting Mr. Antolini of bad intentions, Holden leaves his house and spends the night at the Central Station. However, he soon realizes that he misinterpreted the behavior of the teacher, made a fool of himself. And this further strengthens his longing. Thinking about how to live on, Holden decides to move somewhere to the west and there, in accordance with the long-standing American tradition, try to start all over again. He sends Phoebe a note informing him of his intention to leave, and asks her to come to the appointed place, as he wants to return the money borrowed from her. But the sister appears with a suitcase and declares that she is going to the West with her brother. Willingly or unwittingly, little Phoebe plays him in front of Holden. She declares that she will no longer go to school, and in general she is tired of this life. Holden, on the contrary, has to involuntarily take the point of view of common sense, forgetting for a while about his all-negation. He shows prudence and responsibility and convinces his little sister to abandon his intention, assuring her that he will not go anywhere. He takes Phoebe to the zoo, and there she rides a carousel. And he admires her. The novel ends with Holden, matured from his adventures and from the words of a little girl, standing near the carousel on which his little sister rides. This story makes it clear that many of us make the same mistakes, and it is necessary to listen to advice because adults have lived their lives and will never give bad advice. You need to live not only for yourself, but also for others, and rebellion does not lead to anything good. You need to live right and teach this truth to others. If you liked this review, please put a like, and if you didn't like it, then bold dislike.